Today, I'm going to show you how to make a simple, effective, hidden brake stay for your hardtail chopper. I'm Grease, you're watching Grease's Garage, and I'm going to help you skip the struggle. This right here is the brake stay that we are going to be fabricating today. As you can see, this brake stay hugs that frame rail and it stays in plane with that frame rail. A lot of brake stays tend to run parallel to the ground and jut out from the frame in a really ugly sort of way that kind of distracts your eye from the line of the frame, and I did not want to do that when I was making my brake stay. Now, fortunately for you, if you are wondering whether a brake stay that follows the line of the frame rail will work in a hardtail application, I have been running this particular brake stay for 2 years now. I have had my chain stretch. I have readjusted my chain, slid my wheel back and forth, and I can assure you, this brake stay works perfectly with this caliper. Speaking of calipers, if you want to do this hidden brake stay design that I'm showing you here, I highly recommend you use the same caliper that I am using. It is a Harley Big Twin caliper. It's a factory part. And the 3 reasons that I recommend you use this is 1, it's super affordable. I got this on eBay for $45 and they are all over eBay all the time for super short money. 2, the brake works phenomenal. It is the only brake on my bike and I have been betting my life on it for the past 2 years, and I have nothing but good things to say about this particular caliper. The 3rd reason I recommend you use this caliper is specific to the way that the brake caliper is cut at the area where it goes into the stay. It's sort of flared out on each end, as you can see in this picture here. It's not just a straight line. That cutout is actually pretty handy because it allows us to hide that brake stay but not have the binding issues that you can sometimes have on other brake calipers when you try to do a brake stay like this. So let's get into the design. So the design on this brake stay is super simple. All you're going to need to create this same brake stay is a piece of scrap steel. As far as the thickness of the steel, I used 1/4 inch. It needs to be 1 1/4 inches wide, and it needs to be at least 5 inches long. I'll explain why that is later. Once you've got your steel, you can go ahead and set that to the side for now, because this next part we are actually going to do via CAD. And before you click off the video, I'm not talking about the fancy guy software kind of CAD. We are going to do the old tried and true standard of cardboard assisted design. What we've got here in front of us is a piece of cardboard that matches those specs I listed earlier. It's 1 1/4 inches wide, it's 5 inches long, and as far as the thickness, we really don't care about that because it's not relevant to what we're doing. So what we're going to do is build the brake stay out of the cardboard, and then when it's done, we will lay the cardboard onto the steel, trace around it, and we will cut that out of the steel, and your brake stay is done. The only other thing it can be helpful to have, but not necessary to have, is a piece of tubing that is the same diameter as your frame. And this is only so that you can work here in front of your face, as opposed to having to push this over up against the bike. The first thing we are going to do is take our piece of cardboard and we're going to come in 1 inch, and we're going to make a line right at the 1 inch mark. What we're going to do next is take our piece of cardboard, lay it down on the table just like you're seeing here, and you're going to take your tube and you're going to lay it on top of the cardboard. If that sounds confusing to you, just look at the screen and match it to exactly what you're seeing me do on the video. Next, we're going to take our marker and we are going to trace around the edge of that tube. And what this is going to do is give us the proper radius to cut out of this piece so that when we fit it up to the tube, it fits clean. Now that we've got that line traced out on the cardboard, go ahead, take a pair of scissors and cut along that line to remove that material from the cardboard. The next step we're going to take here is to make a gentle bend, just like you're seeing on the screen here, in that piece of cardboard on the small end of the bend line. So it's just that 1 inch portion that you're going to be bending down. What you want is for it to be a gentle roll of a 90-degree bend. And then as you can see, once you've got the bend in the piece, you can fit it up against this pipe that you've got in hand or against the frame rail of your bike if you don't have a piece of scrap tubing. And this is the fit you're looking for. You want the contour of this piece to hug the edge of this frame rail, just like you're seeing in this top-down shot. You don't want any big gaps in this. Because you marked this line with the frame tubing itself, the cut you made should follow the rail of that frame perfectly. If it doesn't, grab a new piece of cardboard, draw a new line, and try it again. Once you're happy with the fit of the cardboard design, we are ready to now transfer this over to steel. So what you're going to do is take your cardboard cutout, lay it onto your piece of steel, and scribe the line of that coped cut that you made on the cardboard, and now match that on your piece of steel using an angle grinder. The easiest way that I have found to do this is to make the first cut with a cut wheel, just a straight cut that takes off the majority of the material, and then to do the rest of the cope with a flap disc like this. It just makes it a lot easier to sneak up on the perfect measurement as opposed to trying to cut it. And as you know, angle grinders don't really make a nice gentle cut like that. So grab a flap disc, hog out the material you need, and once you've got that part matching, you're ready to move on to the next step. The last step in this process is to put the bend in the piece of steel. There's a couple different ways that you can approach this. One way is to take a longer piece of steel, like a 6-inch piece, put it in a bender, just like this one I've got here from Harbor Freight, put the bend in it first, and then cut the piece to length. If you don't have access to a bender, but you do have access to a heat source like a MAP gas torch, just go ahead and heat this tiny little tail piece up, and then you can just bend that either by tapping it with a hammer in a vise, or you could even potentially take a set of vice grips and just crank it down. It's a very small piece of material, so it should bend pretty easy for you. Once you've got your piece bent up, the last step is to test fit it on your actual frame. So go ahead and stick that piece where it's going to go and make sure that that coped edge follows tight against that frame rail so that when you're welding it, you have an easy time. The next step in the process is going to be to determine where on the frame we should place the brake stay. The way we do this is by sliding our wheel as far forward as it will go until it's all the way in the front of the axle adjuster slot. You're going to want to make a little mark where your brake caliper is at that spot, and then slide your wheel all the way to the back, just like you're seeing me do here, and make another mark at where your brake caliper is resting. And what you want to do is to make sure that whether your wheel is all the way forward or all the way back, that brake caliper never leaves that brake stay. I'll roll in a clip right here of what I'm talking about. You can see as I move this wheel forward and backward, it is never in a position where it's about to slide off of that brake stay, nor does it ever go so far forward that the brake caliper hits the bent part of our brake stay and keeps it from traveling. You need to have full range of motion front to back in order for this to work. Once you've got that piece in the spot it's going to live, go ahead and tack one end of it, tack the other end of it, and then come back with a full weld. Now, because of the way that this is designed, where this weld is going to follow the top of the frame rail and then wrap down, it's a lot stronger mechanically than it would be if you were to just take a flat piece, lay it on top of the frame rail, and weld it. One quick note on the welding portion. Anybody who watches this channel knows I'm a huge fan of TIG welding and I don't own any MIG welders, but if you are doing this with a MIG welder, that's totally fine, but make sure that you do not get any spatter from that MIG welder on the travel path of the caliper. This caliper needs to be able to slide on this piece without any resistance. And if you were to get a little BB that landed right where the brake caliper needs to go, it's going to bind up on that BB and it's not going to be able to travel. So make sure you tape off the area where you don't want any of that weld spatter to go. Once you are finished with the welding and the brake stay has had time to cool off so you're not burning your hands, go ahead, reassemble everything and do this same motion you're seeing me do here. Take your wheel, slide it from back to front and back to front, and what you want your caliper to do is exactly what you're seeing mine do. You want it to be able to move freely without binding. Now, one thing I do want to mention, when I first made this hidden brake stay and welded it onto the bike, I had a lot of naysayers say things to me like, oh, good luck when your chain stretches and you have to move that back and that caliper binds up on you. This is a classic case of people just repeating things they've heard other people say and never trying them for themselves. Now, maybe some calipers that don't have these sort of notches that the factory Harley caliper does, maybe they wouldn't work with this setup, but this particular setup works perfect. So why clutter up your bike with a parallel brake stay when you can have a nice, clean, simple, hidden brake stay design like this one? So that's it, guys. Job done on the brake stay. Now, if you need help spacing your rear wheel to get that perfect alignment, I did an entire video on exactly that topic, and you can check that out right here. Thanks for watching Grease's Garage, and I will catch you guys next week.